So have you ever stopped to pay attention to mood state? Because I never did. And it makes such a difference to your life when you start to see this for yourself. And when you start to look at your life and notice it, then it changes everything. And so I'm going to give you a few examples of how it changed for me and how it changed for other people I've kind of shared this with. And then you can decide what to do with that. But I used to be completely unaware of the nature of thought, of mood. I didn't realize that our spirits naturally go up and down, just like the weather. And it's completely normal. And I didn't realize that when our mood drops, our thoughts match our mood. And it's just like they suddenly can appear with this negative filter. They're kind of low, I call them low grade thinking. But before I realized this, if someone said to me, are you okay? You seem a bit low. I would look for reasons on the outside because I thought life was happening to me. I always thought, I was that victim of life, and it looked like it was so real. I never questioned it. It just looked like, when I hit a low mood, it was like, oh yeah, that's because of all those things on the outside. It's because of, you blame your circumstances. You blame, I blame my husband in some way, or my kids, or, not suddenly I didn't have a purpose or a meaning or a this or that. All this stuff that kind of comes your way and it looks mesmerizing, but it kind of matches your mood, which is really interesting. And I used to do so much with it. I used to just, like I say, I blamed the world. And it never occurred to me that just my spirits were low. And I didn't need to do anything with it. And it was such a game changer. And I kind of shared this with other people. I remember with my daughter, because if you've been listening, I'll talk a bit more about her journey through anxiety and out the other side. But she, because she would be up a lot in the night and she would be tired and she'd have some low moods, and she would pick up her thinking when she was low, and she would pay a lot of attention to it and kind of take herself lower and bring all these thoughts alive and give them a lot of meaning. And the more she got interested and the more she started to see, how this all works and see what she was doing with her mind, she started to have her own sort of moments of insight. And I remember her she came into my room, and I don't know, she's about 15 or something. She came into my room and she's like, oh God, this is happening and this is happening. And I don't know who my friends are and all of this stuff that she was kind of innocently just bringing alive while she was feeling tired and low. And then she stood there and she paused and she went, oh, I'm tired. And then there was another pause. And then she was like, I don't need to do anything with this, do I? I don't need to pay it any attention. And I was like, no, there's nothing that needs doing and fixing here. It's just you notice that when your mood drops, your thoughts are pretty rubbish. And then when your mood changes and it lifts again, all the things that you kind of thought were really overwhelming and problems, and suddenly they look different. And, but when we don't see it, what we do is we think more. We pay them more attention and they become bigger problems. And I remember sharing this as well with someone who, she used to think that when her mood dropped, she needed to change it. She needed to do something with it. And what happens when we try and change our mood or change our thinking is we get more and more lost inside it. We get more and more mesmerized by it, and we try to do something with it. And we're trying to change what is, and it just takes us lower because we get lost inside it. And there's no pause, and there's no sort of willingness to go with it and just let it, meet it, allow it. It's okay. It's okay to be low. It would be like the sky judging the rain. And it doesn't. It would be like the tree that I'm looking at judging the seasons. It doesn't. It knows, it's all completely natural, and it goes, that's fine. And so this particular person, when she would hit a low mood, she would get lost inside it, try and change it, go into massive resistance, get very reactive, because her family would do the same. They would go, oh, we hate it when she gets low because she's, she's so heavy, and then it impacts all of us, and we all just try and change it, and we just don't want to be around her. And the whole thing was so reactive, and there was so much doing and judgment and I remember kind of sharing this with her, and she was like, oh, so it's okay. It's okay to be low. There's nothing wrong with me. And I went, no. And she said, oh, so I don't need to do anything with it. And she said, and then when I spoke to her a while later, she said, I felt this, my spirits drop, and I felt, she just felt that she was kind of dipping into this low mood. And she said, I paused, and I could see the thoughts coming thick and fast, but I didn't pay attention to them. She said it wasn't like the low mood wasn't there. It was there, but I didn't climb inside it. I didn't do anything with it. She said, I went out and I played with the dog. And she said, without even doing anything, without even, she said it just passed. And that had never happened before. She was just like, wow, I didn't know that was possible, because she used to do so much when her mood dropped and give it so much meaning. And I remember my sister, she, had some experience of depression, and for her, when she hit a low mood and when her spirits dropped, she gave it a big meaning. It was like, oh, this means I'm going to be under the covers for days. This means I'm going into a depression. This means that I'm not going to be able to get out of bed. And this means, and then she realized nothing changed on the outside, but she saw it. She saw what she was doing when her mood state dropped. And nothing changed apart from her awareness. That's the only thing that changed. And then everything changed, because she no longer needed to give it a meaning. She let it pass on through. And, I think sometimes it's our thoughts come through and we pay them so much attention. And then when we're low, we kind of almost pay them more attention. But you see now, like if Pete, my husband, he says to me, are you all right? You seem a bit low. Whereas the old me would go, well, it's because of this and it's because of that, and that's a problem and this is a problem, and it's all coming from the world and my situation. And now I would just say, I'm low, feeling a bit low. Nothing to fix, nothing to do, nothing to see here. It'll pass, and it does. It passes through. And it allows you to have a different relationship with it. There isn't this whole, we don't need to be positive and wonderfully happy the whole time. We can just be, whatever being looks like. And what also happens is, you don't have to be, when you're in a low mood state, when you're not blaming the world and thinking it's because of all the problems and the overwhelm and the fixing, and because you're not doing that anymore, you don't take yourself lower, and you realize you don't have to be miserable. When your spirits kind of drop and you're in that sort of lower energy, lower mood, you don't have to be miserable, because you can just be. I think what makes us sometimes miserable is all the doing. When we're in that low mood, all the doing and the fixing and the problems that we're kind of innocently creating while we're in that low mood, because we're unaware of what we're doing. Well, that was me, and that was my experience. And I read somewhere that a low mood state is like a love letter from the soul, prompting you to look in a different direction. And I like that, because it's like, when we're in a low mood and the thoughts come, are we willing to pause and look in a different direction? And pay attention to the silence and just accept. It's okay, and I'm okay, even when I'm low. It doesn't affect my being. And then the light of your being just carries on shining through, because you're not blocking it with all your problems and fixing and doing while you're feeling low. It's just back in this state of being, and everything is, and that includes low mood. And I never knew that before. And it changes everything. And now there's a chainsaw outside, which is also okay. But I'm going to stop talking because I don't think you can hear me. But also, one thing that I'll just say and then I'll finish is it allows you to be grateful for the kind of the higher mood state, and graceful, I don't know if you can hear me, with a low mood state. So you kind of really appreciate it when you're kind of feeling more buoyant. But you're not worried about it when you feel low, because it's normal and it's fine. And now I'm going to not contend with the chainsaw and leave you in peace. Bye.